she wasn't supposed to look like that. That's the first thought running through Kang Jae-min's mind the moment Amara steps through the ballroom doors, in a plum dress that clings to every curve she spent 3 years hiding under blazers and cardigans. The chandeliers catch the fabric and turn it almost black, then almost wine red, depending on how the light hits her. Conversations stop. Glasses pause halfway to lips. And Jae-min, the man who once watched a rival bleed out on his marble floor without blinking, feels something twist hard in his chest. He doesn't move. Not yet. Here's the thing about Kang Jae-min. Nobody in this room has ever seen him rattled. Not the senators who owe him favors, not the men in tailored suits pretending they don't fear him, not even his own father, who built an empire on silence and passed that silence down like an inheritance. For 34 years, Jae-min has perfected the art of feeling nothing on the outside, no matter what's happening underneath. Tonight, that mask is cracking, and it's cracking because of his assistant. His assistant, the woman who brings him coffee at 6 a.m. and reorganizes his schedule without being asked, the one who spent 3 years standing quietly beside him at events just like this one, invisible in beige and gray, never once drawing a second glance, until now. Across the room, a senator's son's already making his move. Jae-min watches the man's eyes drag over Amara like she's something on a menu, and that's when the question rises in him, sharp and sudden and completely unlike anything he's ever said out loud. He crosses the ballroom before he's even decided to. His hand finds the small of her back, and his voice comes out low, almost dangerous, pitched only for her. Who told you that you could wear that? It's not romantic. It's not even kind. It sounds, if anything, like an accusation, and Amara feels her whole body go still, because in 3 years, Jae-min has never once commented on what she wears.
I bought it myself, she says carefully, watching his jaw tighten. Is that a problem, sir? He doesn't answer right away. His eyes are somewhere between her collarbone and the senator's son, still watching from across the room, and for one long second, Amara sees something in his expression she's never seen before. Not anger, not control, something closer to fear. No, he finally says, it's not a problem. But his hand doesn't leave her back for the rest of the night. Now, if you've ever wondered what it looks like when a man who spent his entire adult life building walls suddenly realizes one person has already gotten past every single one of them, that look on Jae-min's face is exactly it. And trust me, this story only gets more intense from here, because that one possessive question is about to unravel a secret that's been buried for years, a secret that will force Amara to choose between the truth and the man she loves. Stick with me, because before this night ends, someone in this room is going to try to destroy them both. Let's back up. 3 years earlier, Amara Whitfield walked into Kang Jae-min's office with a resume that had nothing to do with organized crime and everything to do with survival. She needed the job. He needed someone who wouldn't flinch at what she'd eventually learn about the man signing her paychecks. Neither of them expected the arrangement to last past the trial period. Neither of them expected it to become the center of both their lives. Jae-min inherited his position the way most men in his world do, through blood, through violence, through a funeral he wasn't allowed to grieve at properly, because grief in his family was treated as weakness. His father built the Kang organization into one of the most feared networks on the East Coast, and when he died, Jae-min stepped into that role at 26, with a face that had already forgotten how to show anything but control.
People fear him for good reason. Deals close because of him. Rivals disappear because of him. And underneath all of it, buried somewhere beneath the tattoos and the tailored suits and the reputation that precedes him into every room, is a man who hasn't let himself trust another human being in over a decade. Amara changed that without either of them noticing when it happened. It wasn't dramatic. It was small things. The way she remembered how he took his coffee without ever being told twice. The way she never once flinched when armed men walked through the office like it was nothing. The way she looked at him like he was simply a person and not a headline waiting to happen. Somewhere between the late nights and the quiet routines, Jae-min stopped seeing her as staff. He just never said it out loud, not until tonight, in a ballroom full of people who would use that weakness against him if they ever found out it existed. And someone already has. because 3 tables away, half hidden behind a wall of champagne flutes and fake smiles, a man is watching Jaemin's hand on Amara's back with an expression that has nothing to do with jealousy and everything to do with opportunity. He's been waiting for this moment for years, waiting for Jaemin to slip, waiting for the one crack in the armor that would let him finally move. He just found it. If you're new here, make sure you hit subscribe, because this story is about to take a turn nobody sees coming, and trust me, you do not want to miss what happens next. Let's keep going. The gala rolls on, but something's shifted in the air around Jaemin and Amara, and people notice. It's in the way his hand stays anchored at her waist even when he's shaking hands with men twice his age. It's in the way his eyes track her across the room whenever she steps away to greet someone he's introduced her to 100 times before. And it's in the way Amara, usually composed to the point of invisibility, keeps catching herself smiling at nothing in particular, like she's still trying to process the way he looked at her 30 minutes ago. Neither of them says anything about it, not yet.
Instead, they fall into the practice rhythm of the evening. Introductions, small talk, the careful choreography required at events like this, where every handshake is a negotiation and every smile hides 3 different agendas. Amara has always been good at reading rooms. It's part of why Jaemin hired her in the first place, though he'd never admit that was the real reason. She notices things other people miss. Tonight, she notices a man near the bar who hasn't stopped watching them since they walked in. She doesn't know his name yet. She will. His name is Han Seok-won, and to everyone else in this ballroom, he's simply a guest, a business associate of one of the city council members, here to shake hands and make connections like everyone else. But Amara catches something in the way he holds himself, something too still, too deliberate, like a man playing a part he's rehearsed 1,000 times. She mentions it to Jamie later, when they finally get a moment alone near the terrace doors. "There's a man by the bar," she says quietly. "Dark hair, gray suit. He's been watching us for 20 minutes. Jaemin doesn't turn immediately. That's not how this works. Instead, his eyes drift casually across the room, cataloging faces the way he's trained himself to do since he was a teenager, sitting in on meetings he was too young to understand. When he finds the man, something flickers behind his expression. Recognition, maybe, or something closer to old wounds reopening. "I know him," he says finally. Amara waits. "Han Seok-won," Jaemin continues, voice flat in a way that tells her exactly how much effort it's taking him to keep it that way. "His family runs the Western Territories. We had a conflict a few years back, before you started." "What kind of conflict?" Jaemin doesn't answer right away, and Amara doesn't push. She's learned over 3 years when to leave a door closed and when to knock. Tonight, she leaves it closed, though something in her chest tightens anyway, some instinct telling her this isn't the last she'll hear of Han Seok-won. She's right, though she won't understand how right for another several weeks.
The rest of the night passes without incident, at least on the surface. Jaemin stays close, closer than he's ever been at an event like this, and by the time the gala winds down and the guests start filtering out into cars waiting along the curb, something between them has quietly rearranged itself. Neither of them names it, but when Jaemin walks Amara to her car instead of letting his driver handle it, when he stands there a beat too long before opening her door, both of them feel the shift. "Thank you for tonight," Amara says, and it comes out softer than she means it to. "You didn't do anything," Jaemin says, then catches himself, jaw tightening slightly like the words escaped before he could stop them. "I mean, you were just here. That's all I meant." It's the closest thing to fumbling Amara has ever seen from him, and something about it makes her chest ache in a way she doesn't fully understand yet. "Good night, Jaemin," she says, and for the first time in 3 years, she uses his first name without the title attached. He doesn't correct her. He just watches her drive away, standing on the curb long after her taillights disappear into the city, feeling something crack open in his chest that he doesn't have a name for and isn't sure he wants one. Meanwhile, across the city, Han Seok-won sits in the back of a car that isn't his, dialing a number he hasn't used in over a year. When the call connects, his voice is low, measured, careful in the way men speak when they know they're being listened to by someone who doesn't tolerate mistakes. "He's distracted," Seok-won says, "more than we thought.
There's a woman. A pause on the other end. Then a voice, calm and familiar, responds in a tone that carries years of practiced loyalty layered over something far colder underneath. Good, the voice says. Distraction is exactly what we need.
The call ends, and somewhere inside the Kang organization, in an office just down the hall from where Jae-min conducts his most trusted business, a man who has spent over a decade earning Jae-min's complete confidence begins making calls of his own, calls that will, in time, threaten to unravel everything Jae-min has built, everything he loves, and everyone he's ever trusted. Amara doesn't know it yet, but she's about to become the most important piece on a chessboard she didn't even know existed. And Jae-min doesn't know it yet either, but the woman he just realized he can't stop thinking about is the only person standing between him and a betrayal that's been years in the making. 2 weeks pass, and something has changed in the rhythm of Jae-min's days. He still runs his empire with the same cold precision he's always had. Meetings still happen behind closed doors. Money still moves through channels no outsider could trace. But somewhere in the margins of his schedule, small things start shifting. He lingers in the office longer than necessary when Amara's still working late. He starts remembering how she takes her tea, the way she's remembered his coffee order for years. He catches himself watching the door for her arrival every morning and hating how obvious that probably is to everyone around him. Amara notices too. She's not blind, but she's also careful, because falling for the man who signs her paychecks, the man whose world is built on violence she's only ever seen the edges of, feels like standing at the top of a very tall building and wondering what would feel like to jump. Still, some things are hard to ignore. Like the Tuesday afternoon he shows up at her desk with 2 coffees instead of 1, sets hers down without a word, and walks into his office like it's nothing. Or the way during a tense negotiation with a supplier who gets a little too aggressive in his tone, Jae-min's whole demeanor shifts colder and sharper, like something in him activated the second the man raised his voice near her.
You didn't have to do that, Amara tells him afterward, once the supplier's gone and the office has gone quiet again. Do what? Jae-min asks, though they both know exactly what she means. Scare him half to death because he was rude to me. Jaemin's jaw works for a second, like he's deciding whether to deny it. He was disrespectful, he says instead, in my office, to someone who works for me. Someone who works for you, Amara repeats, and there's something in her voice, not quite hurt, but close to it, that makes Jaemin's expression falter. That's not... He starts, then stops, frustrated with himself in a way she's never seen before. He's a man used to controlling every conversation he's in, and right now, standing 3 feet from her, he looks like someone who's lost the script entirely. That's not what I meant. Then what did you mean? The office is quiet, except for the hum of the city outside the windows, 20 floors down, indifferent to whatever is happening in this room. Jae-min looks at her for a long moment, long enough that Amara starts to wonder if he's going to answer it at all. And when he finally speaks, his voice is quieter than she's ever heard it. I meant that I don't like the idea of anyone treating you like you don't matter, he says, because you do, more than you probably realize. It's not a confession, not exactly, but it's close enough that neither of them knows quite what to do with the silence that follows. Amara is the one who breaks it, because someone has to, and because if she doesn't say something now, she's not sure she'll ever find the nerve again. Jae-min, she says softly, what is this? What are we doing? He doesn't answer right away. Instead, he crosses the space between them, slow enough that she has every opportunity to step back if she wants to, and she doesn't. His hand comes up, not to her waist this time, but to her face, fingers brushing along her jaw like he's testing whether this is real or something he's imagined too many times to count.
I don't know, he admits, and it's the most honest thing she's ever heard him say. I've spent my whole life making sure nothing gets close enough to hurt me, and somehow you got past all of it without me even noticing. That sounds like a problem for you, Amara says, though her voice is barely above a whisper now. It is, Jae-min says, the biggest one I've ever had. Neither of them moves for a long moment. Then slowly, like he's giving her every chance to change her mind, Jae-min leans down, and Amara doesn't pull away. It's not dramatic. It's not the kind of kiss you'd see in movies, all fireworks and swelling music. It's quiet, careful, The kind of kiss that feels like something finally settling into place after being unsteady for a very long time. When they break apart, Jae-min rests his forehead against hers, and for the first time in longer than he can remember, he feels something close to peace. It doesn't last. Because 3 floors below, in a private meeting room most employees don't even know exists, Jae-min's most trusted lieutenant, a man named Choi Dae-hyun, is sitting across from a courier who's just delivered a message meant for exactly one person. The envelope isn't addressed to Jae-min, it's addressed to Amara. Dae-hyun studies it for a long moment, turning it over in his hands, reading the return address that means nothing to anyone else in this building, but means everything to him. He spent 11 years building Jae-min's trust, brick by careful brick, becoming the one person in the organization Jae-min never questions, never doubts, never suspects. That kind of trust doesn't happen by accident. It's engineered, cultivated, earned through more sacrifice and manipulation than anyone in this building could imagine. And it's about to pay off. He doesn't open the envelope. He doesn't need to. He already knows what it says, because he's the one who arranged for it to be sent in the first place. Instead, he sets it aside, pulls out his phone, and sends a single text to a number saved under a name that means nothing to anyone who might see it. It's begun.
Upstairs, unaware that anything has shifted, Jae-min and Amara are still standing close together in his office, neither one in a hurry to step away from whatever this is they've just started. For a few more hours, at least, they get to have this uncomplicated, unguarded, real. It won't stay that way for long. If you're feeling the tension building already, wait until you see what's inside that envelope, because it's about to change everything Amara thought she understood about the danger surrounding the man she's falling for. Make sure you've subscribed so you don't miss where this goes next. The envelope finds its way to Amara 3 days later, slipped beneath the stack of morning mail on her desk, like it belongs there, like it's just another piece of correspondence in a job that usually involves nothing more dangerous than scheduling conflicts and expense reports. She almost doesn't notice it at first. Then she sees the handwriting on the front, her name, nothing else, written in a hand she doesn't recognize, and something in her stomach tightens before she's even opened it. Inside is a single line, no signature, no explanation. Someone close to him wants him gone. You are the only one who can stop it. Amara reads it twice, then a third time, waiting for it to make sense, waiting for the words to rearrange themselves into something less alarming. They don't. She glances toward Jae-min's office door, closed for a meeting that started 20 minutes ago, and feels a cold, creeping certainty settle into her chest. Whoever sent this knows something she doesn't, and whoever sent this trusts her more than they trust the man she's falling in love with. She doesn't tell Jae-min, not that day, not the day after. It's not that she wants to keep secrets from him, it's that she doesn't yet know who to trust, and telling him means telling someone, and telling someone in his world means the wrong ears might hear it before the right ones do. So instead, she starts watching, quietly, carefully, the way she's always been good at, long before any of this started.
She notices things she never paid attention to before. The way Choi Dae-hyun, Jae-min's most senior lieutenant, always seems to know things before he should. The way certain meetings get rescheduled at the last minute whenever Dae-hyun requests it. The way whenever Jae-min mentions his past, which isn't often and never in detail, there's a flicker of something unreadable behind Dae-hyun's expression, gone so fast she almost convinces herself she imagined it. She hasn't. A second message arrives a week later, this one more specific. A time, a location, an instruction to come alone. Amara stares at it for a long time before making a decision that will, in a matter of weeks, nearly destroy everything she's built with Jae-min. Not because it's the wrong decision, but because it's the kind of decision that looks like betrayal from every angle except the one she's standing in. She goes. The meeting takes place in the back room of a restaurant she's never heard of, in a part of the city Jae-min has never taken her,
And when she walks in, the man waiting for her isn't a stranger. It's Han Seok-won, the man from the gala, the one Jae-min warned her about without ever explaining why. "You came," Seok-won says, and there's something almost surprised in his voice, like he half expected her not to show. "Talk," Amara says, arms crossed, every instinct in her screaming that this is a mistake, even as she stays rooted to the spot. "You said someone close to him wants him gone. Who?" Seok-won stares her for a long moment before answering, like he's deciding how much she can handle. "Choi Dae-hin," he says finally, "your boss's most trusted man. He's been planning this for years." "That's not possible," Amara says immediately, though even as the words leave her mouth, pieces start clicking into place. The rescheduled meetings, the flicker of something cold behind Dae-hin's expression, the way he's always exactly where Jamie needs him to be, exactly when he needs him there, too perfectly positioned, too convenient.
"I know it's hard to believe," Seok-won says, "but I have proof, financial records, communications, enough to expose him if we move carefully and if we move together." "Why would you help me?" Amara asks, "because none of this makes sense yet, not from a man whose family fought a war against Jaemin's not so long ago. Why would you help him?" Seok-won's expression shifts, something almost tired settling into it. "Because Dae-hin didn't just betray Jae-min," he says. "He used my family to do it. Years ago, we were blamed for something we didn't do, something that cost Jae-min someone he loved. Dae-hin made sure of that. It kept the war between our families going, kept Jae-min isolated, kept him dependent on people like Dae-hin, who claimed to be the only ones he could trust." Amara's chest goes tight. What happened? Who did he lose? Seok-won hesitates, and for the first time, something like guilt crosses his face. "That's not mine to tell," he says quietly. "That's his." Amara leaves that meeting with more questions than answers, and a decision weighing on her that she doesn't know how to make. Tell Jae-min everything and risk him not believing her, risk him thinking she's been working against him with the very family responsible for whatever tragedy Seok-won won't name, or stay quiet, keep digging, and pray she can bring him real proof before anyone gets hurt. She chooses to stay quiet. It's the choice that almost costs her everything. Because 3 days later, Jaemin's driver mentions, casually, without thinking much of it, that he dropped Amara off at a restaurant across town the previous week, a restaurant Jae-min has never heard her mention, at a time she told him she was running errands. Jae-min doesn't say anything at first. He simply files the information away, the way he's trained himself to file away every inconsistency, every piece of information that doesn't quite fit. But that night, alone in his office long after everyone else has gone home, he pulls up security footage from the block outside that restaurant, footage his organization has access to through channels most people don't know exist.
What he sees stops his breath in his chest. Amara walking into a private meeting with Han Seok-won, the same man who once tried to have him killed. If you've been waiting for the moment everything falls apart, this is it. And trust me, what Jae-min does next is going to break your heart before it heals it. Smash that like button because it does not let up from here. Jae-min doesn't confront her that night. He doesn't confront her the next morning either. Instead, he does the one thing he swore he'd never do again after the last time someone he trusted turned out to be lying to him. He watches. He waits. He lets the silence stretch out between them, cold and careful, while he tries to convince himself there's an explanation that doesn't end with Amara betraying him to the one family that's tried to destroy everything he's built. But 3 days of watching only makes it worse. Amara keeps disappearing during her lunch breaks, phone calls she takes in stairwells instead of at her desk, a folder she keeps locked in a drawer that used to stay open. Every piece of evidence stacks against her, and every piece of evidence feels like a blade sliding slowly between his ribs. By the 4th day, he can't hold the silence anymore. He finds her in the office after hours, the same office where he first admitted how much she mattered to him, and this time his voice carries none of the softness from that night. It's cold, controlled, the voice of a man who has spent his entire life protecting himself by refusing to be surprised by betrayal ever again. "Han Seok-won," he says. No greeting, no warning. "You met with him. Twice that I know of, maybe more." Amara's blood runs cold, because there's no version of this conversation that starts well. Jae-min, don't, he cuts him, and something in his tone makes her stop immediately. Don't explain it away. I want to know why you are meeting with the man who tried to have me killed, and I want to know why you didn't tell me.
I was going to tell you, Amara says, taking a step toward him. I just needed proof first. I needed proof of what? Jaemin's voice rises now, not shouting, but sharp enough to cut. Proof that you were selling information to my enemies? Proof that everything the last few weeks meant something? Or proof that it was all just... He stops himself, jaw tight, like he can't even finish the sentence. That's not what this is, Amara says, desperation creeping into her voice now. Jae-min, please, just listen to me. I trusted you, he says, and for the first time something cracks in his controlled exterior, something raw and wounded slipping through. Do you understand what that means for someone like me? I don't trust anyone. I haven't let myself trust anyone in over a decade, and you were the first person who made me think maybe I could. You still can, Amara says, tears burning in her eyes now, because watching him unravel like this is somehow worse than anything she imagined when she pictured this conversation. Everything I did to protect you. By meeting secretly with a man who tried to put a bullet in my head. Jaemin's laugh is humorless, bitter. That's protection? Yes, Amara says firmly, refusing to back down even as her voice shakes. Because someone inside your own organization is planning to kill you, Jae-min. Someone you trust completely. And Sakwon had proof I needed to verify before I brought it to you. Because if I was wrong, if I accused the wrong person, it could have gotten us both killed. For a moment, the anger in Jaemin's expression falters, replaced by something like confusion. What are you talking about? Choi Dae-han, Amara says, watching the name land like a physical blow. He's been planning this for years. Sakwon has records, financial trails, communications, everything. He said Dae-han orchestrated something in your past, too, something involving someone you lost. Jae-min goes very still.
What did you say? His voice has dropped to almost nothing now, all the anger drained out of it, replaced by something far more dangerous, the quiet, controlled stillness of a man who has just felt the ground shift beneath him. He wouldn't tell me the details, Amara says softly. He said that was yours to know, not his to tell. Jae-min doesn't respond right away. He turns away from her, walks toward the window overlooking the city he spent his entire adult life protecting and controlling, and for a long moment he says nothing at all. When he finally speaks, his voice sounds like it's coming from somewhere far away. Her name was Sua, he says quietly. She was the only person who ever made me feel like I could have a life outside of this. We were together for almost 2 years. She died in a car accident when I was 24. At least, that's what I was told. Amara's chest tightens, understanding dawning slowly, painfully. You think Dae-han? I don't know what to think anymore, Jae-min says, turning back to face her, and the look in his eyes is something she's never seen from him before. Not anger, not control, but something closer to grief that's been buried for over a decade and is only now clawing its way back to the surface. I'm sorry, Amara whispers, closing the distance between them now, and this time Jae-min doesn't pull away. I should have told you from the beginning. I was just so afraid of what would happen if I was wrong. You weren't wrong, Jae-min says, voice rough. You were protecting me. Even when I gave you every reason to think I'd never trust you again, you were still protecting me. He pulls her into him then, holding on tighter than he's ever allowed himself to hold on to anyone, and for a moment the office is silent, except for the sound of 2 people finally understanding each other completely.
But somewhere in this building, Choi Dae-han has already noticed the meeting, already noticed the closed door, the raised voices, the way Jae-min's demeanor has shifted since the conversation with his driver 3 days ago. He knows his window is closing, and a man who has spent 11 years patiently orchestrating another man's entire life doesn't intend to let that life slip away without a fight. Choi Dae-han doesn't panic. Men who panic make mistakes, and in 11 years of careful, patient manipulation, he has never once let himself make a mistake that couldn't be buried, explained away, or quietly erased. But he understands, standing in his office that night, that the game has changed. Jae-min knows something, maybe not everything, but enough to be dangerous. So he moves the timeline up. The plan was always simple in its brutality. Remove Jae-min in a way that looks like retaliation from a rival family, position himself as the loyal lieutenant who steps up in the chaos that follows, and finally claim the empire he spent over a decade convincing himself he deserves more than the boy who inherited it by blood alone. He told himself for years that Jae-min was never fit to lead, that the softness Amara had uncovered, the very thing that made Jae-min human, was proof of weakness Dae-han could exploit. He didn't count on Amara refusing to let that weakness become a liability. 3 nights later, Dae-han makes his move, calling an emergency meeting under the pretense of a security threat from Seok-wan's family, luring Jae-min to a warehouse on the edge of the city with 2 men Dae-han trusts to finish what he started years ago when he first orchestrated the accident that took Sua's life. But Amara already warned Jae-min this was coming. Seok-wan's intelligence, gathered over months of careful surveillance, gave them exactly what they needed, not just proof of Dae-han's betrayal, but knowledge of the trap before it closed. When Jae-min walks into that warehouse, he walks in prepared, flanked by men still loyal to him, men Amara helped him quietly identify in the days leading up to tonight. Dae-han's expression when he realizes the ambush has been turned against him is the first honest thing Jae-min has seen from him in years.
"You should have stayed the same broken boy I built you into," Dae-han says. And there's no more pretense in his voice now, no more loyalty, just 11 years of resentment finally spilling out into the open. "I gave you an empire, I gave you purpose, and you'd throw it all away for a woman who works for you?" "You didn't give me anything," Jae-min says, voice steady despite the storm building behind his eyes. "You took everything. Sua, my ability to trust anyone. You built a cage and called it loyalty. It kept you strong," Dae-han snaps. "It kept me alone," Jae-min answers. "There's a difference." What happens next isn't the kind of dramatic, sprawling battle you'd expect from a story like this. It's quieter, more controlled. Jae-min's men move fast, Dae-han's plan collapses the moment it becomes clear he's outnumbered and outprepared, and within minutes, the man who spent over a decade engineering Jae-min's isolation is the one left with nowhere to run. He's taken into custody by Jae-min's people, not the police. Some things in this world are settled differently. And whatever happens to him after that night is a conversation Jae-min has quietly, privately, without ever telling Amara the details, because some parts of his world she still doesn't need to carry. What matters is that it's over, the threat is gone, and for the first time in longer than he can remember, Jae-min feels something close to free. The next morning, he goes to his family, the same family that spent months pressuring him into a marriage with the daughter of a political ally, a marriage built entirely on strategy and none on love. He tells them, calmly and without room for negotiation, that the wedding is off, that he's chosen someone else, that for once in his life he's not making a decision based on what strengthens the empire, but on what makes him feel like an actual person instead of a name attached to a legacy.
His family doesn't take it well. They rarely do, but Jae-min has spent his entire life bending to expectations that were never really his own, and he's done bending. He finds Amara that evening at her apartment, still shaken from everything that happened, still processing the fact that the man she risked everything to protect is standing in her doorway, looking at her like she's the only steady thing left in his world. "I told my family," he says simply, "about us, about the marriage. It's over." Amara searches his face, looking for hesitation, for doubt, for any sign that this decision is going to unravel the moment reality sets back in. She doesn't find any. "Are you sure?" she asks softly. "I've never been more sure of anything," Jae-min says, stepping closer. "You risked your life to save mine. You found out the truth about the worst day of my life, and you stayed anyway. I don't want an arrangement, Amara. I don't want someone who works for me. I want you, as an equal, as someone I choose every single day, not someone I possess." Amara's eyes fill with tears, and this time she doesn't try to hide them. "I was never afraid of your world, Jae-min," she says. "I was afraid you'd never let yourself be loved in it." "Then let me try," he says quietly. "Let me actually try." She doesn't leave his dangerous world, even though he offers her that freedom, even though he tells her, more than once, that she deserves a life without the weight of everything that comes with loving a man like him. She stays, because somewhere between the danger and the secrets
and the quiet mornings with coffee made just right, she found the one thing she never expected: a man who finally lets himself be loved without fear. And Jae-min, for the first time since he was a young man who lost everything in a lie someone else constructed, finally gets to choose his own future. Not the empire, not the legacy, just her. If this story moved you even a little, let me know in the comments. And if you haven't already, hit subscribe and drop a like. It genuinely helps this channel grow, and I've got so many more stories like this one coming. Thank you for watching until the end. I'll see you in the next one.